and it's gonna roll. This summer all the hottest jams are gonna be in these cassettes and CDs. Look inside of a 12-pack, Coca-Cola, classic, Diet Coke, and Sprite. Yo, see what's inside, cause every box has a big surprise. Take it from me, it's the right direction. Pop music is your connection. This summer, pump up your collection.
Minnesota, play the Daily 3 in the Minnesota State Lottery. To find out if you're a winner, watch the drawing exclusively on Channel 4 every evening at 6:29. It's a lot of fun, and all proceeds benefit Minnesota's natural and economic environments. Also join Channel 4 Wednesday and Saturday evenings at 9:59 for the live Lotto America drawing. For the winning Daily 3 lottery numbers, call Touchtone TV. You're watching the news on Channel 4. It's 5 o'clock.
Good afternoon. Today, the American Medical Association, the AMA, adopted stronger recommendations urging doctors to be tested for AIDS.
But the AMA voted against measures requiring mandatory testing, and that leaves some delegates wondering if the association has gone far enough. Our Esme Murphy reports from Chicago. Well, we will have that report in just a few moments. It's no wonder, however, that today's rejection of AIDS testing for doctors got a lot of people in the healthcare field talking.
And that's why we have Ann Schieber, our science and medicine reporter, standing by to tell us more on that. Ann?
Well, Don, you can imagine with all the news about AIDS and doctors lately, the issue of testing is widely talked about in Minnesota hospitals. We met up with one patient and surgeon today who had some strong thoughts on the AMA's decision.
Guy Dahman is about to undergo surgery any moment. The AMA's decision not to recommend AIDS testing for doctors came as a disappointment.
I'm putting my life in their hands for how many hours when they're going to have me, and I'm going to have to live with what's going to happen long term. Just as well as when they cut me open, I think it'd be okay if they made me have an AIDS test before they cut.
In fact, there are many patients who agree with Guy. According to a WCCO TV poll, 73% of respondents favor AIDS testing of healthcare workers. 56% say the test should be mandatory for patients as well. Dr. Daniel Dunn, who is performing Guy's surgery, believes the AMA made the right decision. But if testing were required for doctors, it should also be expected of patients.
I'm at higher risk than the patient is, a much higher risk. I do 10, 15 operations a week, and I'm exposed every time I do an operation to a risk of getting HIV from the patients, whereas a person in their lifetime may only have one operation, may never have an operation.
While AIDS testing guidelines are still up for debate by the public, doctors and patients will have to rely on the honesty of each other.
Since this issue has become so prominent, I have had a patient ask me, and of course they're, I think, more embarrassed than I am. I have no problem telling a patient I'm HIV negative.
I could ask him in 2 seconds, it wouldn't bother me a bit.
And he'd give you an answer?
Yeah, I think he would.
The guidelines that everyone is waiting for are the ones that are about to be issued by the Centers for Disease Control. Those guidelines are expected by the end of the year.
Well, is there any way of telling how the CDC will react to all this, how they will act?
Well, no one really knows for sure. The CDC will probably evaluate the recent cases here, probably in Minnesota with Dr. Benson, and the Florida case with the dentist who infected 5 other patients before making any such guidelines.
The question is whether those guidelines will be voluntary or mandatory. Do you know?
Well, nothing is ever mandatory. There are recommendations and guidelines for doctors, but everything that the CDC does recommend, hospitals do pretty much follow.
All right, thank you very much. Ann Schieber reporting. Other news. Late this afternoon, the United States House of Representatives passed a bill to permit abortion counseling at taxpayer-financed clinics. That would reverse a recent decision by the United States Supreme Court. If the measure also passes the Senate, President Bush says he will veto it. Today.
Police are looking for a 15-year-old North St. Paul boy suspected of killing his father. 45-year-old Louis Petrie was shot just inside his front door at about 11 o'clock last night. A short time later, police put out an all-points bulletin for Petrie's son. Neighbors say the two had been arguing all day long, and WCCO has learned the 15-year-old told his best friend last night that he might hurt his father. Louis Petrie was a private investigator, and police say he was shot with one of his own guns. 3 people were sent to the hospital this morning after a car slammed into an MTC bus. It happened in Brooklyn Center near 49th and Osseo Road. An elderly woman who was driving the car was treated for minor injuries at North Memorial Medical Center. 2 passengers on the bus, a man with a neck injury and a pregnant woman who was a bit shaken, were both treated and released. In national headlines, a Greyhound bus accident 60 miles southeast of Pittsburgh has killed 1 person and injured 17 others. The chartered bus went over a steep embankment on the Pennsylvania Turnpike this afternoon. The bus landed on its side and it trapped some people inside. The cause of the crash is not yet known.
Here's the latest news on that Zachary Taylor case. President Zachary Taylor was not poisoned. That's what Kentucky's chief medical examiner said today after a series of tests were run on the remains of America's 12th president. A Florida historian and writer believed Taylor was poisoned with arsenic because he opposed the spread of slavery into the Southwest and the territories. But the medical examiner in Kentucky said today the tests show that Taylor did, in fact, die of natural causes. Time now to check in with Matt Balo. Where is he?
He's in St. Paul at Phelan Park.
I am in St. Paul. You both look pretty comfortable there in the air-conditioned studio. Outside, it's quite warm and quite humid, and the only really cool place out here is in the water down at Lake Phelan. A lot of people cooling off around the upper Midwest, in area lakes and pools and everything else. Outside, we are mostly sunny right now and 95 degrees. That is the warmest so far that we've been today, and it's the warmest day since way back on July 3rd of last year, the warmest day almost in an entire year. We started out this morning with a very warm low of 76 degrees, and it looks like it's going to be partly cloudy later on tonight. We're looking for a temperature of around 74, so another warm night on the way. With the increase in dew points and the humidity being higher, our heat index right now is 104. The heat index is the apparent temperature that it feels to your body, and that's not just uncomfortable today, it's downright dangerous. We'll talk about the heat index and how you can avoid heat stress and heat stroke later in this half hour. Don and Cindy?
Okay, Matt, thanks.
One of Minnesota's favorite tourist destinations has been caught up in the spirit of the season.
The town we're talking about is Stillwater. The season is road construction. It sounds like a real problem, but Alan Cox reports a lot of businesses are trying to look at it as an opportunity.
In the best of times, getting around Stillwater can be problematic for reasons that contribute to its charm. Bluffs on one side of downtown, a drawbridge backing up traffic on the other. They give Stillwater its historic air. Unfortunately, it also has historic sewers. So the sewers are being replaced this summer in a $6 million project that should protect river quality and improve the sights for tourists.
Well, I think that Stillwater needed to do something, but I'm not sure that shutting down all the parallel side streets was a real good idea.
Well, that's a mess walking around town, yes, but I guess it's got to be done from what I hear.
We're feeling a little bit of impact from this downtown renovation, but I guess you got to keep a positive outlook on it.
The Chamber of Commerce likes to think of the dismembered streets as a selling proposition. They call it rebuilding the birthplace, a reference to the fact that Stillwater was Minnesota's first city. One word should not be referred to. You don't like to use the C word.
That's right, C word. It's negative. The minute people hear construction, it's like, I'm going to go someplace else.
So what is it?
It's street renovation.
This clothier didn't get the message about the C word, and his customers must not mind.
You got to go with the flow.
Has it affected your business?
Well, last week our business was up. This week we're holding our own, and I think what we're probably doing is working a little harder than we have in the past.
Originally, Stillwater's business people had hopes that they would avoid the worst of the construction, keep it out of the tourism season. The project was supposed to start in April, but it got underway 2 months late. Construction crew schedules dictated the timing, and Stillwater is hardly alone. Most of Minnesota is torn up. The town of Sauk Center is already fighting over a plan to rebuild Sinclair Lewis's Main Street in 1993. By then, Stillwater will be as good as new, which in this river valley means as good as old. Alan Cox, WCCO Television News, Stillwater.
Well, in the meantime, Stillwater is operating shuttle buses to help visitors get around. And the construction workers knock off each weekend to clear the streets. Or perhaps we should call them the street renovation workers.
Yeah, don't use the C word.
Never again.
Oh, no. Still to come today on the 5 o'clock news, the Twin Cities boy tells the nation about the dangers of illegal fireworks. His story is next. Then at 5:20, a debate over who should be allowed to legally smoke marijuana to relieve the pain of a serious illness.
This is the 5 o'clock news on Channel 4 with Don Shelby, Cindy Hilger, Matt Balow, and the rest of the WCCO news team.
Mercedes, BMW, Lexus. Expensive cars with a life-saving luxury, an airbag. Fortunately, there's also the Isuzu Stylist, the only import under $10,000 with a driver's side airbag standard, so you too can enjoy a lower cost of living. The Isuzu Stylist, there's no comparison.
Now the Stylist could also save you money, up to $2,000 during Isuzu's big deal.
In over half the homes across America, people rely on Kenmore appliances. And right now, the country's most popular brand of appliance is on sale at Sears Brand Central, where you can take home this huge 21 cubic foot all frostless Kenmore top mount for just $599.99 during America's greatest refrigerator sale. Only at Sears Brand Central.
Get ready tonight as the Twins host Toronto. In the metro area, call your local cable operator for details on this pay-per-view event.
She's got the kids, and he's got the house, and is living there with his girlfriend. You're the new girlfriend. Not the new. She's been around during my marriage.
Were you with him while he was married?
No, we were not together.
Untrue. Untrue. I have witnesses to this.
Audience, you don't believe her?
Bitter divorce battles on the next Oprah.
Thursday at 4 on Channel 4. Hey, Minnesota, play the Daily 3 in the Minnesota State Lottery. To find out if you're a winner, watch Channel 4 every evening at 6:29.
In our consumer segment today, keeping your family safe during the July 4th holiday. Today, the federal government reminded us how dangerous illegal fireworks can be.
Consumer reporter Sylvia Gambardella is here now with more on that story. Sylvia?
Cindy, this is one of those stories we don't like reporting to you. It's about the tragedy that illegal fireworks can cause in the hands of a youngster from Champlin, Minnesota, who was brave enough to talk to us about his experience.
It exploded in my hand, and I didn't know it until a second later, and then I started screaming.
What exploded in Jason Berner's hand was an M250 Salute, a powerful firecracker. It was last June when the Champlin teen and his friend found the explosive on the street. He brought it home. When his brother lit it, it didn't go off at first.
So I picked it up, and I brought my arm back to throw it in the street, and then it went off, and then I started screaming. It took off the end of my thumb, 2 of my fingers, and half of my middle finger and my ring finger on my right hand.
A lot of other sports, and Jason...
In Washington today, Jason shared his personal tragedy with children and their parents around the country. He spoke at a news conference held by the Consumer Product Safety Commission on the dangers of illegal fireworks.
Kids always think they can't get hurt because some of us think we're immortal.
As evidence of how powerful illegal fireworks can be, the commission lit some explosives on the lawn of the Washington Monument. The federal government banned the sale of the most dangerous types of fireworks, cherry bombs and larger firecrackers, but homemade devices are making it difficult for law enforcement officials to crack down on the sale of the explosives.
But illegal salutes can be manufactured in basements and garages and sold to the public at high profits, I might add. This makes it virtually impossible to identify their source. The only practical way to deal with this problem, then, is to educate people to stop using these devices.
The Consumer Product Safety Commission estimates that last year more than 12,000 people were treated for injuries associated with fireworks. About 40% of the victims were children under 15 years old, children like Jason Berner.
I thought it couldn't happen to me, and it did, and now I have to pay the price heavily. And some kids might die from it. I got lucky.
Jason has had 7 operations to reconstruct his right hand. And Cindy, he wanted to talk to us about that, to let other children know that this really is a very dangerous thing. You can't get that message across strong enough unless you really see what happened to him.
And he is very well spoken, isn't he? He's
Absolutely.
very eloquent, and
Absolutely.
I would think that people that saw that story would really take heed. Yeah.
Young people his age who see that story, from the mouths of someone their age, far more important to hear that message than if a parent or an adult stands here and preaches to you all day. It will mean nothing.
Absolutely.
Till you see somebody your own age.
Precisely why he wanted to do it.
So I'm glad you showed that story. Thank you. We have another piece of consumer news. The St. Paul police say someone has been impersonating a police officer and bilking money from people. Yesterday, a man called 2 elderly men and told them that workers at their banks have been stealing money. The police impersonator then asked the men to withdraw large sums of money, up to $9,000 in one case, so that the bills could be marked and put back into the account. The so-called police officer then took the cash and ran. The real police were warning you not to fall for that kind of scam.
You could win one of 6 dream cars in Conoco's Cars We Love game. Me?
Shoot, me win? The day it snows in August.
I never win.
Not if you don't play. Stop by Conoco and pick up a game piece to win your choice of a Cadillac, Mercedes, Jaguar, BMW, Lincoln, or Corvette, or a Village Resorts Hawaiian vacation, or $10,000 and more.
Maybe I ought to head for Conoco.
Cars We Love game. Conoco, hottest brand going.
WCCO Television and Holiday Travel presents colorful New England this fall. Delight in scenic beauty as we travel along the coast to quaint seaside villages and enjoy the colorful foliage in the mountains of Vermont and New Hampshire. In New York City, attend a top Broadway show, enjoy a cruise around Manhattan, and dine at Tavern on the Green. For more information, call Holiday Travel toll-free, 1-800-826-2266.
The largest,
most sophisticated Doppler weather radar in the Midwest.
pinpoint accuracy,
Detailed severe weather information within a 300-mile radius.
precise forecasting.
In our newscasts or whenever the weather turns foul.
See for yourself.
Clear, concise, and accurate Doppler weather radar displays to show you more.
Count on us.
To deliver up-to-the-minute severe weather information when you need it.
Storm Center 4.
Keeping you ahead of the storm. This summer, how far will you have to go to get cooler? Just pick a hot spot and enter the Channel 4 Seagram's Tropical Selection Get Cooler Getaway Contest. You could win a trip to the tropical destination of your choice. To play, fill out an entry blank wherever Seagram's coolers are sold. Then watch the Minnesota Twins from June 15th to July 7th. If your name is announced, you win a pair of Twins tickets and become eligible to win a grand prize trip. So enter now and get cooler.
In entertainment news today, Ally MacGraw.
20 years ago, she was the hottest star in Hollywood. But as time went by, Ally MacGraw faded from the public eye. And she tells why in a new book called Moving Pictures. And she talked about it with entertainment reporter Bill Carlson.
That was then, this is now. Ally MacGraw, 22 years after her name first became known as the star with Richard Benjamin of Goodbye Columbus. But the mega hit which made her bankable, as they say in Hollywood, was Love Story.
I have a scholarship in Paris.
Between the two films, she had married producer Robert Evans, and they had a son, Josh. Then came Getaway with Steve McQueen.
Listen, I'm just as nervous as you.
During production of the film, she fell in love with her co-star, and later they were married. And for a while, she left the movies, but not public scrutiny.
After my 5-year hiatus to bring up my kids and for my marriage to Steve McQueen, I gathered an incredible collection of bad reviews. I mean, maybe world-class collection. And I kept saying, my ego hasn't run away with me. I've got this all together. It's just the critics. It's just them. But I think it finally got to me. It got to my ego, certainly. And I felt humiliated, and it was devastating.
That doesn't mean she feels all of the criticism was unjustified.
I can't look at my movies. That's the truth. I see them once at gunpoint when they're ready to be released, and I cringe.
I'm injured.
I see fear. I see a person who's totally uncomfortable, working as hard as she can not to appear to be recoiling from the camera.
So why go through such painful memories again? First, to set a distorted record straight, and
the examination and the taking responsibility was work I did at the Betty Ford Center when I checked in 4.5 years ago for treatment of what I thought was a, quote, unmanageable life, and turned out to be an alcoholic life. And that was excruciating and the most valuable learning experience I ever had. There's an easy, gentle way to learn things, and I'm the 2x4 school of education. Can I get your attention? Have I got it now?
with Allie MacGraw in the Twin Cities, Bill Carlson, WCCO Television News.
By the way, last week, Moving Pictures made it to the New York Times top 10 bestseller list.
So now check with Matt Badel. Matt, you know that low humidity means never having to say you're sweating. You know that line from a famous movie, I think Allie was in.
I've got to write that down.
Okay.
That's very good. I'll use that, Don, and I will credit you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's very humid outside, partially because that dew point is so high, and the heat and humidity is causing some problems. Again, a lot of people staying cool, but temperatures around the upper Midwest are in the 90s over much of Minnesota and also over much of Wisconsin as well. Right now, 93 degrees over in Eau Claire, 96 in Rochester, it's 90 up in Alexandria. And we talk about the heat index, and what that means is, well, let me give you an example. In Minneapolis today at 1 o'clock, it was 91. In Phoenix, Arizona, they're a couple hours behind us, it was also 91, but it was a dry humidity there. It's 52% was our humidity in Minneapolis, and I mentioned a dry heat, I should say, in Phoenix, only 11%. Well, that gives us a heat index or an apparent temperature to your body of 99. Well, because it was so dry out in Phoenix, it was still 91. So it feels a lot hotter to your body with the heat index. And right now, our heat index in the Twin Cities is 104 degrees. And the reason that's important is because your body cools itself through radiation of heat and also the evaporative cooling of the perspiration on your skin. And when the humidity is higher and the heat index is higher, you can't cool down as much, and you tend to get heat cramps, abdominal cramps, also dizziness and confusion, a sign of heat stress as well. A lot of people trying to avoid that right now in the water, but when that heat index starts to rise up around 90 to 105, that's when sunstroke and heat cramps are possible. 105 to 130, we're right on the borderline of that range for the heat index. Sunstroke and heat exhaustion are likely, and it's rarely 130 and higher here in the Twin Cities, but heat stroke and sunstroke are likely at that time. Even though we've got all this humidity in the atmosphere, there's really not too much going on with the Doppler radar right now within 150 miles of the Twin Cities. And it looks like we're not going to see a lot of thunderstorms later tonight. A possibility of a thunderstorm late, but right now it's mostly sunny at 95, partly cloudy, humid tonight, 74 for the low, and then partly cloudy, it'll be breezy tonight tomorrow as well, and it's still going to be quite hot, 92. Of course, Don and Sydney, the usual common sense items to try to avoid heat stress: lightweight, light-colored, loose-fitting clothing, drink plenty of non-alcoholic liquids, eat lightly, rest if you can, if you start to get those symptoms, and also try to find some shade, if at all possible, or some air conditioning for a couple hours.
Good advice, Matt.
Good tips. Thank you very much, Matt. We'll be back in just a moment. You're watching the 5 o'clock news on Channel 4.
Call now and get a hot deal on a Domino's Pepperoni Pizza Feast, packed with pepperoni and loaded with cheese.
Call 835-3535 now and get a large pepperoni feast loaded with pepperoni and extra cheese for just $11.99 plus a free 6-pack of Coke.
Here's the difference in black and white. The Walmart price. It's different.
Because Walmart is different.
Instead of relying on sales events, we watch expenses so we can give you the low price.
On every item. On every shelf.
In every aisle.
Always.
It's a promise we make each day. A promise we've kept for 29 years. The Walmart price. It's the difference between other stores and Walmart. The difference between sometimes and always.
Herbeck gets a high fly ball, deep right center field. Back goes Devon White to the wall. It's a home run. Over the right center field wall for Herbeck. 3-0 Twins. Number 3 for Herbie.
There's nothing like listening to Twins baseball, exclusively on WCCO Radio 830.
It may not bother you that 1 out of 5 American children live in poverty. You may not even care that of the 3 million kids that start public high school each year, 1 in 4 will drop out before graduation. But just remember, someday these kids are going to grow up. And when they do, guess what the future of America is going to look like?
Been quite a bit of medical news today, and here is some more of it. If you're a so-called yo-yo dieter, a new study shows you may be jeopardizing your own health. In fact, when it comes to preventing illness, researchers say you might as well stay obese. Researchers found dieters who repeatedly lost then gained more than 25 pounds were 70% more likely to develop heart disease. Experts say if you're going to try to lose that weight again, this time you ought to get some help from your doctor. Also today, about 1 million parents have bought those large beanbag-type cushions for their babies, and now researchers are saying those cushions could be deadly as well. Researchers have recently found when infants lie face down on those cushions, they can smother. Many babies who died in that way in the past were mistakenly thought to have died of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. Experts are calling the ban on cushions and new standards for the cushions and mattresses that all babies sleep on. Cindy.
For several months, a Minneapolis man diagnosed with the AIDS virus has been waiting for his first legal shipment of marijuana. The Food and Drug Administration has approved the use of marijuana to relieve symptoms like nausea and vomiting. But the patient is still waiting, and it appears that he will not get a prescription. Amy Marsalis is in our newsroom now with more details on this. Amy?
Cindy, the Drug Enforcement Agency is refusing to authorize the first legal shipment of marijuana to the man whose name is Tim. And we've learned that just last week, the FDA put a stop to a program which gave a small group of seriously ill Americans the legal right to smoke marijuana.
It just makes me so angry, I just know what to say.
Tim and Aaron are both living with the HIV virus and AIDS. They have tried marijuana to relieve severe bouts of vomiting and nausea, and it's helped them more than any other legal drug prescriptions. That's why they want the same opportunity that Bob Randall, a glaucoma patient, has to legally smoke marijuana.
I have smoked marijuana. I'm a person who has had ARC for 9 years. The first 5 of those years were the most difficult. Intense nausea, intense vomiting, weight loss, the whole shebang. And then I heard about the usage of marijuana and got marijuana and tried it, and it has totally changed my life.
Aaron had asked to be put on a list to receive the legalized prescription for marijuana. Tim had been told he would get the drug. He's waited 5 months, and now the FDA is terminating the program.
You can go out and get, you know, Demerol and morphine and the cocaine and all that other stuff, and here, you know, I get 42.5 milligrams of morphine an hour to control the pain or make it tolerable. But that's all right, you know, but I can't, you know, I can have a little bit of marijuana to, you know, to give my life some quality and to keep it going.
As you heard them say, smoking the marijuana gives them what they consider quality of life. It increases their appetite so they can maintain their weight, and it helps control the vomiting. But Randall, the glaucoma patient, who is also director of the Marijuana AIDS Research Project, says the government is pushing a synthetic form of marijuana, a pill called Marinol. Cindy?
Well, Amy, has Tim tried that instead?
Tim has taken Marinol, and he says that after a certain period of time, that only makes his nausea worse.
So that's not a solution. Okay, thanks, Amy. And we'll be back in just a moment. This is the 5 o'clock news on Channel 4.
Hey, I think we're set. Food, worms, fishing poles.
My Ford Ranger. Actually, my special Northland Edition Ford Ranger.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. I got deep dish wheels, chrome rear bumper, tachometer, AM/FM cassette, plus special striping, all for a very special price.
Nice.
I even got cash back and first-time buyer cash.
Hey, that's great, Bob, but hey, let's not keep the fish waiting.
Oh, right.
Now there's an easier way to take home 3 delicious kinds of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Introducing the KFC Variety Bucket. Original recipe, hot wings, and extra tasty crispy. All in one bucket, just $9.99. The KFC Variety Bucket.
And right now, at any participating KFC restaurant, you can choose either a variety bucket for $9.99 or a big 15-piece bucket filled with your favorite KFC chicken for only $9.99.
Most of us listen to 2 or 3 radio stations every day. One to start the day, and one to go to spend the day.